One hairstyle that's never going out of style is a traditional sewing with a minimal leave out. No matter what styles are in for the moment, I always find myself going right back to the old faithful. Think about it, clip-ins are cool, but sometimes they can cause too much tension and can lead to breakage if not worn properly. And lace closures are cool, don't get me wrong. I just don't want my hairline to look the same exact way as everyone else. In my personal opinion, I just feel like traditional sewings just look more classic and clean. Of course, I love a good wig. Y'all have seen me wear every hairstyle in the book. I'm not against any of them, but if I had to pick a favorite, it would most certainly be the traditional sew-in with the minimal leave out. So let's hop right into this install. Of course, you want to start out by figuring out what type of part you prefer to wear. You have a side part, deep side part, off center, and then the middle part. Of course, my sister went with the middle part. The amount of hair you leave out depends on the person's density. I usually do a finger test to figure out if I've left out enough hair. That's basically me just putting the hair over my finger, and if I'm able to see any of my finger, I need to leave out a little bit more hair. Otherwise, you may end up being able to see the weft underneath their leave out. This is optional, but we do like to leave our edges out just in case the wind blows. It'll look more natural instead of you just seeing a bunch of wefts blowing in the wind. Once you have everything parted out, I like to call my braid down the old school method. I feel like this is the method that everyone started out with. I feel like this way keeps my sew-in super duper flat. When I do the beehive, sometimes it's not as flat as it could be. Now I'm gonna warn y'all, I do braid a little weird. Do not judge my braid down because it still gets the job done. We also are not going to use a net because we just did not have a net this night. But usually I do prefer to add a net over any of my sew-in installs because it just helps remove some of that tension from being directly placed on my braid. The way I like to do my braid downs is I braid down and up until I get behind the ear. Once I'm behind the ear, I do 2 braids that goes all the way around the head that will serve as an anchor. These 2 braids will just help your wefts lay flatter and smoother if she wants to wear a ponytail. I used to do an install that's called the versatile sew-in back in the day that allowed you to put your hair in a tall bun. The only thing with that is you would have to leave out your entire hairline all the way around your head, and that's just a lot of hair for some people. So in this case, we're only going to leave out a small amount in the back of my sister's head so she can do a low ponytail. Right above that leave out that we placed in the back, this is where our first anchor braid is going to go. This braid needs to be flat and small as possible just to make sure that our ponytail is undetectable. I usually like to take the first 2 braids, connect them into one, and then unravel the ends and connect that braid to the first anchor braid in the back. This is where I realized that maybe this layout wasn't the best, and I wanted to add 2 braids so that there could be more hair going towards her face. I did 2 anchor braids at the very top that angled towards her face, but I also made sure that I made it very skinny. Leave the ankle braid at the top until you get towards the middle of the bag, because then you're going to just connect that braid to the rest of the braids in the bag. Continue going down and up until you get to the middle. And we're going to do the same exact thing to the opposite side. Once Once your braids are complete, you should have 2 braids left hanging at the bottom. You want to crisscross both of those and stitch them together in those empty spaces. You can clearly see where these braids need to sit at when it comes to sewing it. Wherever you see a lot of scalp, put those braids right there so it can mimic a flat surface. Lately, I have been obsessed with this Olaplex bonding oil. I feel like it just helps prevent my hair from breaking or popping whenever I'm doing any type of styles that causes me to manipulate or tug on my hair. It's been working for me for months now, so I'm gonna stick beside it. Now, when it comes to sewing down this first row, you want to make sure you clip all the leave out of the way. There is nothing worse than finishing up a sew-in and realizing that you have stitched some hair that did not belong there. The first tracks are the most important ones. I like to sew directly underneath the braid so it's not sitting on top of the braid. You want to be able to flip up the track and see nothing but scalp. So I'm going underneath the weft, underneath the braid, then underneath the weft again, underneath the braid, underneath the weft, underneath the braid. And as you're stitching, you want to be pushing the weft directly underneath the braid. Your first track should not be sitting on top of the braid. Underneath the weft, underneath the braid, over. Same thing again, underneath the weft, underneath the braid, and over. And you're going to keep doing this all the way around. I like to do it from one end of the nape to the next end. I like the back piece to not go all the way around just yet because this is solely just to make sure that her ponytail is undetectable when it comes to seeing any wefts. And at this point, this is where it gets kind of easy. You really want to just stitch back and forth in a U shape. But also remember, anytime you're stitching on any first braid, you want it to be underneath that braid. Do not stitch your first weft on top of the first braid. It needs to be under. So like I said in the beginning, you want to push your weft underneath that braid and then stitch under and pull it around and just continue doing it all the way around towards the front. You should stitch all the way up to maybe about the ear, and then you can fold the first bundle back and forth. You don't have to cut the first bundle. I feel like the only time I cut my wefts is when I get towards the front of her face and at the top. So from here, you just want to flip back and make sure you stitch down at those corners and go back and forth. You do want to try to fill in those gaps in the back just so it's not too much space missing. Once you get towards the front, I like to sew my wefts towards her face, meaning you're going to go up that first braid and sew it sideways. You do not want to sew it completely face down. Otherwise, it's not going to give you that extra body and volume that most of us want when it comes to a bust down middle part. So we're going to stitch this all the way up until we get to that top anchor braid. Also, remember what I said. Make sure you are stitching underneath any first braid just so you will not be able to see any braids or any wefts if the wind blows. You want to go underneath the weft, underneath the braid, back and forth. I am going to go in and cut it right here because it's just one of those things where I feel like it lays super flat when some of the wefts are cut. I do try to avoid cutting my wefts as much as possible, but when it comes to a flat sew-in where it's almost undetectable, I sacrifice certain things just to get the look. And if you're one of those people who want to preserve their bundles and you don't like when your hair sheds a little bit, because cutting your wefts does call for your bundles probably shedding a lot more. You can also opt to seal your wefts using the clear nail glue or just super glue. let me just show you what I mean by stitching underneath the braid so that you can get a seamless, flawless install. You see how I'm pushing her hair back and you can't see any of the wefts? That is why you want to go underneath the braid for each first braid. So far, I have sewn only one bundle in, and it's already looking bombed outcome, y'all. So, by the way, I forgot to mention where I got the hair from, y'all. The hair is from Mercy's Hair Extensions, and I believe this is the Brazilian Natural Wave. I'm going to link the website in my description box. I do not get anything from posting this hair. I just was sent this hair, and we wanted to use it. So, this is just the hair we decided to use for this specific video. But I definitely will be doing more hair videos because I feel like I'm having fun again with hair. Let me know what kind of hairstyles you guys want to see, or if it's a specific color, cut, child, let me know, because I'm feeling creative and I'm inspired to actually do more hair videos. And from here, we are just really filling in the gaps. It's almost going to level itself out once the U closes in a little bit more. I'm going to be filling in some of this space back here so it's not too much of a gap before we get to the very top. Once you filled all of those gaps in, you literally just sew 2 tracks under and on top of the top braid. Y'all, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. I know it might have looked difficult, but really the hard part was just getting the braids done. The sewing is one of the easiest parts when it comes to doing a traditional sew-in. And voila, you have a full, bomb, professional looking traditional sew-in. And the best part about this is that the sewing is so easy that even if you don't know how to braid, you can always go to your local braid shop and just show them the braid down, show them how you want it to be braided, and sew this bad boy right on up. Okay, the main thing is making sure your braids are super flat and making sure that you're not stitching on top of the braids but under the braid, unless you're at the very top of the last braid that you're stitching. If you guys want any full-blown styling videos on how I styled my sister's hair or how I layered it, let your girl know. And don't forget to save this video so you can always come back for reference, just in case you want to try this on yourself or a family member, just to see if you can actually get this done at home. And it's not saying that you gotta stop going and get your stuff done professionally. I'm just showing you, just in case you can't go to a professional, just in case, you know, it's always good to know how to do certain things for yourself. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, girl, if you like this video or found it helpful at all. Bye.